Hello, and many thanks for joining us on the program, People, Politics, and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. The challenge of insecurity besetting Nigeria is no longer news. Persistent attacks, killings, and abductions by bandits, killer herdsmen, kidnappers, and unknown gunmen continue to dominate the news. As widespread as these incidents are, some states in the country, such as Benue, Kaduna, Niger, and Zamfara, have been hardest hit. In Kaduna, the southern part of the state appears to be the epicenter, bearing the biggest brunt of the unrelenting attacks, the abductions, and the killings. In many instances, whole villages and communities have been razed or sacked by marauding attackers. Schools and innocent students trying to get an education have not been spared. Indeed, hundreds of some of those students remain in the captivity of bandits several weeks after their abductions. That is even after payments of various sums of money in millions of naira as ransoms. The peoples of the crisis-torn southern part of Kaduna State particularly feel that there is, and I quote, a conspiracy of silence or a deliberate attempt by the government to downplay the severity of the atrocities being committed by the attackers and bandits, which they describe as genocide. Our guest on the program today is the president of the Southern Kaduna People's Union, SOKAPU, Honorable Jonathan Asake, a former member of Nigeria's House of Representatives. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we will return very shortly, and that'll be after this break, and we will launch into our discussion straight away. Honorable Jonathan Asake is the president of SOKAPU. SOKAPU standing for Southern Kaduna People's Union. He's our guest on the program. Thank you once again for finding time to join us.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, Southern Kaduna is practically been under siege for very many years now. And armed attackers, kidnappers, herdsmen. I mean, and when we talk about herdsmen here, these are armed herdsmen. All of them seem to be actively, or rather active, in Southern Kaduna. What is the magnitude? What is the scale of the problem in Southern Kaduna?
Thank you. You see, what is going on in Southern Kaduna, we have described it several times, that a silent genocide is taking place in the southern part of Kaduna, occasioned by the activities of what is popularly called bandits or killer herdsmen, or by whatever name they go. But we know that they are real terrorists that are on a mission to kill and maim and destroy, and then chase out the people out of their homelands. And the problem is all over the local governments that we call Southern Kaduna. Southern Kaduna is 12 out of the 23 local governments of Kaduna State. And so if you take, for instance, Chikun local government, which is occupied by the Bagi nationality. Meanwhile, SOKAPU is that umbrella organization that, you know, covers all the ethnic nationalities that we find in Kaduna State. We are 67 now. So the Bagi nationality, a member of SOKAPU, you know, have a common border with Niger State. So if you stretch all the way where the governor some weeks ago cried out that those bandits who actually identified as Boko Haram are in areas like Kaore and Shiroro and the rest. They share a common border with Kaduna State through Chukwu local government. Now, if you move to Birnin side, on the way to Lagos from Kaduna, the same Chukwu local government borders with Birnin and borders with Zamfara State, where you have that large forest all the way where banditry is taking place. And if you come all the way again to around Jagindi site, where you go through the forest reserve areas to Sanga local government in the southern part of Kaduna State, you border with Nasarawa State. We have activities of those criminals again. So if you look at all the borders of Kaduna State with neighboring state, like Plateau State, where the recent attacks took place in Kauru local government, the day before yesterday and yesterday, and even today, the attacks have been ongoing. Now, you find out that that border again with Plateau State, with Basa local government, and Riom local government, and Kaduna State is another hotspot for these criminals. So the criminals are along all the borders with Kaduna State and all neighboring states, and they are in their camps there. So they are called bandits, like I said, they are called killer herdsmen, but we have come to know that they are terrorists on an agenda to wipe out ethnic nationalities, to wipe out native inhabitants of those areas and take over. And that is what is going on.
What we know, or what the public seem to know about what's going on in Kaduna, and especially so in Southern Kaduna, is what we are told and what we hear from the media. Has the whole story been told? How deep-seated is this security challenge in the 12 local governments that you have mentioned?
In fact, the story has been told over and over again. We have made press conferences. We have contacted relevant organizations that should know. We have even been to some embassies to alert them that genocide is going on in Southern Kaduna. We have talked with the government. We have cried out to the world. In fact, last 2016 or 2017, a team of the Southern Kaduna people, before I became leader, had to go to Geneva to make a case before the United Nations on these killings that are taking place. And up to now, it has not reduced. It has continued to increase. More villages are being wiped out systematically. Their farmlands are being destroyed. Their food supply and food stores are being burned down. Their homes are being burned down in their hundreds or even thousands. And up till now, nothing is being done. As I'm talking today, there is no organized IDP camp in Kaduna, in southern part of Kaduna State, that the people that have been displaced are being catered for by the government. None. Once people are attacked and killed, the women are raped, some are taken to the bush by the same attackers, their property destroyed, their farmlands destroyed, and they are displaced into neighboring communities, and sometimes only waiting for those communities to be further attacked and displaced. And they stay in buildings with neighbors, primary schools, uncompleted buildings, and in their thousands. In fact, we have camps in Chukwu local government today. We have camps in Kajuru. Like if you go to Rimau in Kajuru local government, Maraban Kajuru, Kalla, Gefe. If you go to Goningora, you go to Ngwambije, and if you go to areas like Circuit Power, which is neighboring community with Kaduna State, you have IDPs. You go to Gwagwada in Chukwu local government, you have several communities that have been displaced. In fact, in Chukwu local government, not less than 80% of the communities have been displaced. They cannot access their farmlands. They have become internally displaced persons, only waiting for handouts from good-spirited individuals, from faith-based organizations, from NGOs and other groups that hear our cry. And that is all we Sokapo can do, is to cry out that our people are suffering, no organized camp. And while
so Kapo as an organization, how is it coping with this huge humanitarian crisis?
It's overwhelming. We are overwhelmed by the huge humanitarian crisis. Mind you, Sokapo is just a socio-cultural organization and a pressure group. But today, Sokapo has found itself playing the role of humanitarian organization, where we intervene, where we cry out every time that our people are being displaced. And not only the displacement, why we call it genocide is this, that the displacement takes place. They first of all kill children, women are the greater part of the casualty, because they are the ones that cannot run, and the elderly. But everybody is a target of these killings, mindless killings I call it. And they displace the people, they destroy the homes, sometimes they loot the property of the communities into hillocks vans that they bring and ferry them away before they destroy the homes. And then they don't stop there. They go to the farmlands and cut down, like it is farming season now, the crops are growing. They cut down maize, corn, groundnuts, yams. They bring them, the yams, out of the ground and destroy them. And vegetables, whatever. Then by night,
so more like a scorched earth operation.
Exactly. And they take their cattle to graze on those lands continuously with no challenge, no government agency coming to ask what is going on. And so it is not only Southern Kano communities. Mind you, just last week, on the 31st of last month, that is July, there were very severe attacks launched on Irigwe community, that is the Miango community of Basa local government. They also have brought out their own statements describing exactly what is happening. And Basa local government shares a common boundary with Kauru local government of southern part of Kaduna. Now, from the 31st of July, there was heavy onslaught on those communities where over 500 homes of these native inhabitants were destroyed, were burnt down. And in fact, they went to communities, of Jebu, they went to communities of Zanwa, Inchetahu, Irikwe, Rishe, A and B, and Patevi. They destroyed all those communities, destroyed their farmlands in the same manner. And on Saturday, just last Saturday, they crossed over to Kauru local government, which is a common border. And they went into communities of Kishisho, Kikoba, and Ungwamagaji and Kigam, where they killed not less than 48 people, but they destroyed over 100 homes in those areas. And in fact, that is just an estimate of the homes, because we're still putting the stock. But the level of carnage and the pattern of destruction and killing is the same. And the same people move along a common route, because they just move over from Basa local government into Kauru local government, into those communities, and they continue the same carnage, the same destruction of farmlands. Now, why do we call it genocide? When you have a set of people that are profiled along their ethnicity, or along their beliefs, or along their cultural practices, or along their tribe, or political inclination, or whatever, but they are profiled for extermination, systematic extermination. And there is a constituted authority that turns their eye the other way while this carnage is going on, while the killing is going on. And they have gone ahead to destroy the very source of livelihood, not only destroying the homes, but the farmlands, where even if you go back, you don't have a place to stay, you don't have what to eat, you are not even expecting crops to come up in the next 1 year. So you have to stay over 2 years. And yet help is not coming from government. That is genocide. that by definition is genocide. So genocide is going on along that axis of Plateau and Southern Kaduna, of Benue and Nasarawa, of Niger State, and in greater parts of the Middle Belt, where indigenous farming communities are being displaced. And oftentimes this carnage, when it's going on, it goes on for hours. Tell me.
On challenge.
On challenge. In fact, like the one that took place in Zangon Kataf. They started the killings on the 8th of July in Zangon Kataf, local government of southern part of Kaduna State. And that killing started with a widow that was attacked in the night while she was sleeping with her orphans. She was beheaded. All her 3 children were beheaded. Her grandchild of 4 was beheaded. And then on the 11th of July, the carnage continued from one community to the other community. The resultant effect of that carnage was that 400 homes, no less than 400 homes, were completely razed down. In fact, the home of the chief of Atiap, that is the paramount ruler of the Kataf people, was razed down. We made a presentation. In fact, it was actually bombed. You could see that if you go there, and we called on the military to actually investigate that the chief's home was bombed. The home of former ECOMOC field commander, General Billiop, was bombed. And before they do this, they had hillocks that were painted in military colors. So if they are fake soldiers, they had people that were wearing military camouflage that were actually with them. So we can assume that they are fake soldiers, fake security personnel. But how come that the security of this nation will not be able to root out people that come to commit such crimes against humanity, such heinous crimes, and they commit such crimes and they go scot-free?
And they get away.
They get away with it.
Which leads me to my next question. Over time, have you been able to profile who these attackers are? Are they Nigerians? Are they non-Nigerians?
Very good.
Because before this latest upsurge in these attacks and criminalities, there were said to be internal crises within the communities or among communities in southern part of Kaduna. But this new trend, this new upsurge appears to be much more than what was on before.
Now let me take
Can we make a distinction?
Yes, we have. We have. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. We have. But let me just go back a little bit. You say that, oh, we have been having perennial crisis in that part of. Yes, I can make the chronology of this crisis for you and for Nigerians. In 1987, there was a conflict that started from the College of Education in Kafanchan. It was a religious conflict between Christians and Muslims, and it escalated to other parts of Kaduna State and even beyond. And that was a huge crisis. It was actually religious. In 1992, there was a dispute between the Atiab natives and the Hausa Fulani community in Zangon Kataf town, where they had a dispute for the location, on the location of a marketplace. Now, that dispute resulted into a conflict that you call the Zangon Kataf conflict of 1992. Now, in 2000, there was this ill wind of Sharia that started from Zamfara State. And of course, we have a common border. And that wind blew to Kaduna State, where a member of the House of Assembly moved a motion that he wants Sharia to be implemented in Kaduna State. Kaduna State is multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural, with widespread ethnic nationalities. And of course, there are people that are even traditional worshippers. And so, the Christian Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State, protested peacefully, and that snowballed into a major crisis where over 2,000 people were killed. It is on record. Now, we have the Miss World crisis, where there was supposed to be a Miss World contest. And
a beauty pageant.
A beauty pageant. And some people felt that it ought not to happen. And it coincided also with a write-up in This Day by one of the reporters. And it again culminated into another major crisis in 2001. So those ones are different. But what we are experiencing now started from 2012, where people come by night and attack a community unprovoked and kill and maim and destroy and, you know, chase the people out of their homelands. And so we have been thinking, what's going on? But the president in 2016 sometime said the people coming to do these killings, because they were not only killing in Southern Kaduna, mind you, they were killing in Plateau, they were killing in other parts, Benue and other parts of the Middle Belt. He said most of them were coming from Libya and other neighboring countries. The governor of Kaduna State, Governor Nasiru El-Rufai, came public and said the killers were coming for vengeance. That sometimes in 2011, that those trans-Saharan herders were passing through Southern Kaduna, some parts of Southern Kaduna, and they were killed by the people of Southern Kaduna. Well, we are not aware of that, but that he identified them, and he traced them, and he paid them so that they stopped the killing. But instead, the killings have not stopped, although he didn't tell us how much he paid, where that money was appropriated from. But he told us he paid them, that they came from about 16 neighboring countries. Now, these killings have continued. But when we go to the villages, the communities that are attacked, we in Sokapo, we normally go with intervention, medication, clothing, and basic relief materials. And they will tell us that the people that come to do the attack are mercenaries. They are foreign Fulani people. But that they have their internal local Fulani collaborators who are criminal Fulanis that collaborate with them. They know their names, they tell us their names. And they tell us that those Fulanis, these are the ones that stay with them, they know them. It is not every one of those Fulanis, the local Fulanis, that is involved, but they have the criminal Fulanis that collaborate with these foreign Fulanis to perpetrate these heinous crimes against humanity. And most of them have been mentioned. Most of these Ardos, when we say Ardos, they are the leaders of these local community Fulanis. They have been mentioned, their names have been mentioned, but nothing has been done up to this very day. I have names that communities have mentioned of these people. Nothing has been done. None of them up to now has been apprehended. None of them is being prosecuted, not to my knowledge. But what I know is that each time, particularly in Kaduna State, this is the most pathetic part of the story, that each time there is an attack on our communities, with all the distress calls, until the whole carnage is done, when the youth of the community come out and start chasing after the attackers, what they will see receding into the nearby bushes, that is when the security will come and then grab them into vehicles, into their vans, and take them to Kaduna State CID, and they have been humiliated over and over, even with our elders. That is
that is the youth of the community now.
That is what?
The youths of the community.
The youth of the community, yes.
They are the ones who are then arrested.
They are the ones that are arrested. The very victim communities are the ones that are arrested and thrown into detention. And you have to suffer like this, sweat and whatever it takes in the Nigerian system to be able to get them out. We have instances over and over. In fact, sometimes some are accused on trump-up charges, like the Adara elders were taken to court. After some time, no charge was found on them. After spending over 100 days in detention, they were released. The same thing with the Achab elders. Just a few months ago, they were detained like that. Just a few months ago, they were granted bail. This is the story that goes on. But
is that why?
Let me just, it does not even stop there. The most pathetic part of the story is that the government of the day in the state, under Governor Nasiru El-Rufai, made it that every time there is this attack, while the communities are mourning their dead, the only solution is not to go after the attackers, but is to go ahead and declare a 24 hours curfew, sometimes that will last for months, where the natives cannot go out, they cannot go visit their farms, they cannot go to the market to buy, and they will continue to suffer in hunger and no help coming from anywhere. It has happened in various communities that have been attacked. It happened in Zangon Kataf, it happened in the Jama local government, if you remember 2016, during the Christmas Day crisis where over 800 people were killed. A 24 hours curfew was imposed in that community. And so sometimes you don't know where to go to, who to cry to. What have you done? Is it that because you are indigenous? Now, we have come also to find out that, look, all these things is about change in demographics. That, look, our communities are being supplanted. And Fulani communities are being erected in such communities. And so, if our people cannot access their farms, and their farms are being destroyed, they don't have homes to live in, then it means that they gradually will perish. And the demographics will change. And we think that is the agenda.
You have been reported elsewhere saying that there is a conspiracy of silence by government and an attempt at downplaying the severity of the situation. Is this what you mean by the narration that you have given?
In fact, that narration, let me just come on it. That narration came when the attacks that started from the 8th of July in Zangon Kataf and spanned all through the 15th of July, where several communities, like I've said earlier, were displaced, many people killed, over 400 homes completely razed down. And it was at that time that a directive came from the NBA, a government agency, that the media should not report activities of bandits and kidnappers and other criminal elements that are within our communities. And we felt, look, at that time that woman I told you, the widow that was slaughtered, all the way to when the carnage started with the destruction, there were no reports. We could only leak reports to the media. And we felt maybe the media is being gagged. We felt the media is getting afraid. Now, if the media is gagged, the story of the genocide that is going on will not be heard by Nigerians and the international community. And if this story is not heard, and this is a government agency, then there must be a conspiracy of silence or some kind of, mischievous arrangement somewhere. And that is why we cried out in a press conference. We made the international press conference to say that when this directive came, it is an attempt to, block information of these atrocities that are being perpetrated against the people of our communities. And it ought not to be so, because the basic essence of any government in place, especially that of a democracy, is the security and the well-being of the people. And so even if one soul is touched anywhere, there ought to be some concern. And that is our own concern about what is going on.
All right. Now, you have also been reported as calling on the government to declare these bandits, these armed herdsmen, and these attackers, these abductors and kidnappers as terrorists.
We did say so.
What difference will it make?
What difference
if that is done?
Listen, what difference will it do? We look at the scenario. Come on, let's not stop pretending to ourselves in this nation. Let's just stop pretending. We look at the scenario. Some people have told us that, the government doesn't have the capacity to deal with this insurgency or with this banditry or these kidnappings and whatever. And I said, no, we have more than enough capacity if you look at the Nigerian government and the security system. But there is no will to deal with it. And why we said that they should declare these bandits, these criminals, as terrorists. If government could go to as far as Kenya and blindfold Kano all the way back to this country, that means government has capacity. We have the capacity. If government could chase Igboho, who is struggling for self-determination of the Yoruba nation, all the way to Benin Republic, and arrest him there, and his studied trial, it means government has more than enough capacity. If government could trace Tawase Akase, alias Ghana, and the security lured him out of his hideout because he was involved in what they called criminal activities around that region, and he was killed, that means that our security has more than enough capacity. Our intelligence is more than enough to track down any other criminal activities going on in the country. And if they could trace Ikonso ESN fighter and neutralized him with his own fighters, then what is wrong? What is happening that these kidnappers, in fact, or what they call bandits, or what they call killer herdsmen, have been killing, have been raping, have been destroying not only homes but farmlands, the source of livelihood of people, sending them into hunger, which could result into mass death, apart from the genocide they perpetrate on the real atrocities they commit. And up till now, they are left. Even the Mieti Allah that comes up every time to defend these atrocities and take ownership of it and give reasons why these atrocities must go on, they have not been so declared as a terrorist organization. And so we came to the conclusion that, look, in a country like Nigeria, where we are in a democracy, where the rule of law is upheld, the law should not be a respecter of any particular persons or groups, irrespective of the ethnicity or religion or status of the person. And so if these organizations, if IPOP could be described as, or could be so designated as a terrorist organization, I am not aware that IPOP has left to come to the Middle Belt, to the north, to Zamfara State, to kill people. They are doing their agitation is restricted to the east. But I am aware that these killer herdsmen have gone to Enugu, they have gone to Imo, they have gone to other places in the southwest, not only in the Middle Belt, not only in the north, and they have killed, they have caused a lot of carnage. Why not declare them as a terrorist organization? Is it that the laws are made for others and not made for others? This is the Nigerian state of the 21st century. That is why we were worried, and we brought up that one. And let me tell you something. In Kaduna State, kidnapping has become like a business. And the governor said it.
We will come to that very shortly when we return from this break. Well, let's remind you that on July the 6th, 26th of this year, an 83-year-old monarch of Jabak chiefdom was kidnapped. And for several days, his fate was unknown. Although he was eventually rescued or released, not many people know exactly what went on behind the scene to get the 83-year-old monarch, who is also from the southern part of Kaduna, released. We'll talk all about that when we return. Thank you so much for staying with us. People, Politics, and Power. My guest is the president of SOKAPU, Southern Kaduna People's Union, Honorable Jonathan Asake. Now, Honorable, one other very worrisome development in Kaduna has been the kidnap of students from tertiary education. It has now snowballed into secondary education. As we speak, over 80 of students from the Better Baptist School in Kaduna are still being held by the so-called bandits and kidnappers. In fact, in recent times, we are seeing very disturbing videos on social media of how some of these children, some of these students are being maltreated in the camps of these kidnappers. What exactly is responsible for this very vicious circle of kidnapping in Kaduna State?
Well, like I say, it's a continuation of the whole story. That's just another part of the story, of the atrocities and the insensitivity that is going on in Kaduna State. If you remember, when the School of Forestry students were kidnapped, they stayed several weeks in the forest. Nobody negotiated for their release. It is the parents that went there to negotiate for their release. When the Springfield University students were kidnapped, 5 of them were mercilessly killed in fact, barbarically killed by the kidnappers to demonstrate that they are serious and that parents must give the money. Parents were tired of waiting for government, and they went in, negotiated with the kidnappers, where over 200 million, including new motorbikes, were given. This is just a story of the past. Now, the school kids of Bethel Baptist School in Rido, Kaduna, were also kidnapped. Today, some of them have been freed with payment by reports that we have, because I'm not involved in the negotiation.
Yeah, in fact, I did speak with the chairman of Khan in Kaduna State,
Yes.
who confirmed that ransoms were paid
Exactly.
for the release of the 28,
we
the first batch of
cross-check
28 students.
with
Yes.
one another. And ransom, a huge ransom was paid, and they did not release all of them. Even the ones that came, some of them are still in the hospital, because it is not that they have homes for those children there. They are under the tree. If you hear the stories of these kidnappers and the atrocities they commit to people in the forest, you won't believe that in the Nigeria of 21st century, that life will be going on normal when people's children, when people's wives, when people's daughters have, and people's parents are being so maltreated in the forest for nothing, or for doing nothing against the state or against anybody. Now, when those people kidnapped those children of the Bethel school, they sent message that they want food items to be sent to them.
Yes.
And the foodstuffs were sent, bags of rice, vegetable oil, and so on. And those things were sent, somebody collected those things. Or at least some people collected those things. Right now, if you have a car and you put what do you call this system of monitoring?
A tracking device.
A tracking device. Yes. If you put a tracker, wherever you keep that car, you will be able to monitor and see if it is parked somewhere or it is in motion. In fact, sometimes you can even monitor the discussions going on inside the car. If your son or your wife is driving the car, you can monitor what the discussion is going on. So if you send bags of rice, you send tubers of yams, and somebody collects them, and he takes them and he's using them, and he can even come and request for more, and collect ransom, and refuse to release the students, then it either means that something is going on that is more than meets the eye. And so we can make our conclusions that, look, if there is the will to get these students out, they will be gotten out. But not only the students. Let me tell you what is happening in Kaduna. The entire suburbs of Kaduna, the entire suburbs, the outskirts I'm talking about, where people, the low-income earners live, where most of them retire and they are given their retirement benefits, they go and build their retirement homes with their families and stay. Most of them are no longer staying there because kidnappers come in every night. What they are doing now, they don't go through the door anymore. They don't start breaking any door. They will drill through the wall of your fence and drill through the wall of your home and bring you out like rats. In fact, they will say, oh, the rats are inside. You will hear them talking, and they can take 3-4 hours doing that unchallenged, just like the story of the destruction of the farmlands I told you about. And so when they do this, you can be sitting down. This is where we find ourselves in the Nigeria of 21st century. That you can be sleeping with your family. Somebody will just come, or you can be going about with your child. A woman can be going with a child at the back. Somebody will just grab the child and take it to the bush. That's the end. Nobody asks any questions. That is the kind of society we are living in. So most of the communities have relocated. Entire communities have relocated in Kaduna today. They are no longer staying in the homes they build. They are squatting in the township and only waiting for only God knows when this thing will happen. And we have come to the conclusion, sir, that look, if these so-called bandits, that the government is deliberately refusing to tag them as terrorists so that they can be given the terrorist treatment, they are becoming more and more daring. Just a few weeks ago, we saw how a fighter jet was brought down by these so-called bandits. So if they have reached this level of sophistication, I'm afraid that very soon, some of these are our communities, and that is our fear. Some of these are our communities that are being attacked using AK-47 and AK-49 and other weapons. We will see that these bandits will come out there and they will begin to fly jets, fighter jets, and bombing our communities. That will be the end of the genocide. That will be the climax of the genocide that we are afraid of, if nothing is done about it.
So if this does not happen, I mean, if government does not declare this group of bandits, this group of kidnappers and abductors,
it suggests only one thing.
This group of armed gunmen who invade and destroy community, if they do not declare them as terrorists, what options are open to the communities themselves?
Well,
for survival,
the options, like I said, if the government will not declare them as terrorists, we have seen that by every inch of their activities, they spell out terrorism. And so if government is refusing to do that, even amidst the cry everywhere, all over the nation, even these Fulani bandits have been declared by international organization as the third most deadly terrorist organization in the world. Now, even with that, our government has not deemed it fit to declare them as such. Then by that action or inaction, it suggests only two things. One, either there is a deliberate attempt to do that out of sheer mischief or complicity. But if nothing is done, a society evolves. Because when, survival is a must, and self-defense is actually a right that is enshrined even in our constitution, the right to self-defense. The people today may not have that right to self-defense. The people may be dependent. We have our hunters, local hunters. We have, local vigilante that I said can rise up to the occasion. But oftentimes they are stopped by the same security forces. Instead of being empowered to face these bandits or to face these criminals or whatever they are called. In Burkina Faso, when these terrorists were going around from community to community, the government of Burkina Faso empowered the local communities to be able to stand up and defend themselves, since the security will not be sufficient everywhere to go around all the communities at all the times. Now, that is where you know the sincerity of purpose of any government. But when you see that government is deliberately not willing to allow people to defend themselves or to even assist them, to empower them to defend themselves, but to weaken them, because each time their kitchen knives, their den guns, their little machetes of defense are taken away, and immediately those things are taken away from communities, then the attacks will come. And sometimes the attackers will send a message. We are coming. We are on our way. We are coming. And if they tell you we are coming on the 31st of July, rest assured, if they don't come on the 31st of July, they will come on the 30th of July. If they don't come on the 31st of July, they will come on the 1st of August. 1 or 2 days. But they oftentimes, it is 80%, 90% that they will come on that day. And information will go, intelligence will go, the people will cry out, look, they are coming to attack us. Nothing will be done. And they will come and have a field day attacking for hours, burning down, destroying, killing for hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It is when they are receding that you'll see help. Oftentimes, that's a story everywhere in all these communities that have been attacked. So I have concluded personally that judging by this, that there is something that is more than meets the eye.
Sometime late last year and early this year, there seemed to have been some peace moves within some communities, especially in the Southern Kaduna axis of the state. The feuding or warring communities had come to some measure or some level of accommodation. But suddenly, others seem to have broken down again with these upsurge in these attacks and atrocities that you described. Now, is there a possibility that somewhere along the line, that the peoples, and when I talk about peoples, the different ethnic groups, the different religions, and the different cultural groups that live in this area can come to some level of accommodation to protect themselves from external forces.
I have said this earlier, but let me say it again for the umpteenth time. It is not a crisis. I differentiated between what used to happen and what is happening right now. So you only have such peace meetings, such dialogues and whatever when you have two people fighting. But I tell you, what is happening now is not two people fighting. It's not two communities fighting. It is unprovoked attacks on peaceful communities, defenseless communities, by people we have come to identify as foreign Fulani headsmen that collaborate with local Fulanis.
Which is exactly my point. The question is, can these communities, these peoples in these communities that had come to some level of understanding and some level of peace building, can they come together, closer together, to repel these other external forces?
Do we know them? You see, the truth about it is that we know the victims. But the real criminals, the real perpetrators are not the ones that always come to sit on the table and say they are negotiating. Like it happened last year in Zango Katav local government. Around the same time, the same farming season, it's always coincidental. These attacks are always stepping up. When
during the farming
season, you know.
Which is, of course, the rainy season.
Exactly. So they use the farmlands to hide, and then they also destroy the farms to make sure that people are really hungry. Now, when it happened, the chief of Atap, with some leaders, elders of the chiefdom, had that peace meeting with the Mieti Allah.
And I actually hosted representatives of the two groups here on this program.
Exactly. Now, those groups that they call, it's just like, you know, the people that are coming to kill. You have not apprehended them. You have not arrested them and brought them and asked them, why are you killing? Each time they kill, is Mieti Allah that will come up and say, oh, why they kill is that 10,000 of our cattle have been rustled. Do you remember how they arrested the elders of Atap? I said that they killed 7,000 of the Fulani cattle in one night. If you have to kill up to that amount in one night, where are they? And so, if we are treating this issue like this, we'll never get to the root of the matter. That is a decoy. That is just pretense. That is actually beating the chaff. The real perpetrators are there. The sponsors of these perpetrators of these crimes are there. And the people that come are just, let me say, political people that come to do a political jamboree, you know, just to play to the gallery, grandstanding. And then they say, we have made peace. But last year, after that peace meeting, 2 days after that meeting, some communities were attacked in Zango Kataf, where over 50 people were killed. So you tell me, so the whole thing is just to make the eye see that, people are sitting for peace. But it is, the solution to this is to track down the perpetrators. Find out who are their sponsors. What is it that they want? The sponsors, because they must have sponsors. Even these kidnappers, they have come on air and said they are being sponsored. We have seen the video going viral and people been sharing the videos that, look, we are being sponsored. One man came out and said, how can a Fulani buy AK-47? Where do we get that money? How much does a cow worth? And what is the cost of an AK-47? He said, we are being sponsored. But that thing went off. The governor of Kaduna State came out and said that these kidnappings, to him, is not criminal. That they are doing business. They are doing business. It was corroborated by the Shagumi that they are doing business, that they have not killed. But I have just enumerated a number of instances where these people have killed their victims in the most barbaric manner imaginable. So what else do we want? Everything is before the public. Unless if we want to pretend to ourselves, or we continue to do a grandstanding. And that is where we find ourselves.
All right, on a final note, Honorable Asake, one is also bothered about how all of this is affecting livelihoods moving forward. You have narrated very succinctly the depressing situation as to how this is affecting farming and all of that. It appears to me that in the months and in the years ahead, we just might be facing hunger in those parts of the states and of the country.
It's very obvious. All these areas that are actually being attacked in the Middle Belt is actually what you can call the food basket of the nation. The real agricultural areas. In the southern part of Kaduna, that's the largest producer of ginger in the whole country. In Saminaka area, which is also the southern part of Kaduna state, maize, this corn, is produced the largest. If you go to Benue and Nasarawa, yams. If you go to Plateau, vegetables and other crops are produced there, like Irish potato. Now, it is these areas that are being attacked. Now, if the president will say we should go back to farm, and yet these herders have not allowed people to go to farm. There is no single day in most of these communities that people are not killed. Even yesterday, a man went to see his farm in Zango Katav local government, in Ngwamasara, and he went to farm because, and if you stay, you die. And he had a pregnant wife that almost 9 months pregnant. And the attackers came to the farm. He cannot stand them because they had gone. He ran away and they slaughtered that woman with that mature pregnancy. It is the story every day. It's the story every day in the farms.
The traditional ruler of Jaba, who was also kidnapped on the 26th of July, was also kidnapped from his farm.
He was kidnapped from his farm, you see, and he was released thereafter. But the paramount ruler of the Adara people in Kajuru local government, Sir Raphael Mewada, of blessed memory, was not that lucky. He was kidnapped in broad daylight. His aides, his security, these two were killed. He was taken to the forest. And after paying a huge ransom, this man was killed in the most barbaric manner. At the end of the day, his chiefdom has been balkanized by the state government, where no new chief has been appointed almost 3 years after. No new chief has been appointed. But one of the 18 district heads that was a district head under this paramount ruler, who was a district head of the Hausa community in Kajuru, a town that is about 2% of the people. He was elevated into the status of an emir, to be the emir of Kajuru. Kajuru, so when you look at this and you look at what leaders are doing, and you wonder, do our leaders, do they want peace? Or they want to see war? A leader is supposed to have everybody, you know, you are like a parent. You treat everybody like your child.
With some measure of
exactly
equity.
So that is what we're having. Yes, so the whole chiefdom has been balkanized.
All right. Honorable Jonathan Asake, let's leave it at that for now. At some other time, we could come and look at further developments. But for now, that's where we're going to be leaving it. Honorable Jonathan Asake is the president of the Southern Kaduna People's Union, SOKAPU, joining me on the program today to provide solutions on how to overcome the Southern Kaduna security challenge. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Right, that's our program for today. Thank you for investing your time with us. Join us again, or we'll bring you a fresh edition of the program.